The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Stocks pulled back from their records as the price of crude oil tumbled again and technology stocks faltered. The S&P 500 fell 0.8%. That's just a day after setting an all-time high for the 46th time this year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 0.8%. The Nasdaq Composite sank 1%. Chip stocks fell after supplier ASML warned of a slower recovery outside of the AI boom. ExxonMobil and other energy stocks sank to some of the market's worst losses after oil prices dropped again. The Dow was down 324 points to close at 42,740. The Nasdaq lost 187 to 18,315. The S&P 500 dropped 44 points to 5815. With the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We are clear and chilly overnight with a low dipping down to 45. Tomorrow, a bit cooler than today and gorgeous. Sunshine-filled skies, a high temp topping out at 64. We have a cold night in store with a low of 40. Sunshine every day the rest of the week with high temps in the 70s from Thursday and into the weekend. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Great things don't happen all at once. Big dreams take time. And when it comes to saving for college, it's those small steps that make a difference. I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 5-9 college savings plan, is designed to be taken step by step. You can start with any amount, contributions are tax deductible, and earnings grow tax-free. So why wait? Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk, Sports Talk Media Network on a Touchstone Energy Talking Tuesday. Let's talk some basketball. Corn's not here, so we can talk whatever we want. Actually, a funny story on the way to the show tonight. And you know how much I love Phil and his inability to be places on time. He's going to claim that this is not his fault. He was in Birmingham this morning, as I hope you saw it, SportsTalkSC.com, covering the Gamecocks and SEC Men's Basketball Media Day. Heard from Lamont Paris and also Colin Murray-Boyles and Nick Pringle, the two players that were there as well. And so Phil covered all that stuff, did a tremendous job as he always does, hopped in the car, and of course did not leave himself nearly enough time, and pulled into Atlanta, leaving Birmingham at around 4:30 or so this afternoon. Normally, that would have almost been enough time for him. There's one problem, though, Josh. The former president of the United States is campaigning in the state of Georgia and in the capital right now of the state of Georgia in Atlanta, and he is trying to get to Cobb County, which is near where I believe Phil's daughter, if I'm not mistaken, that's his Western Command Center. That's where ultimately he's going to join us. So he got stuck on the interstate behind the convoy coming from Hartsfield International Airport after President Trump also campaigned earlier today in Illinois. So he flew down to Atlanta, and Phil didn't quite figure that was going to be a problem. So on his way to Sports Talk tonight, one of the Republican nominee for president of the United States is actually driving in front of the Phil Kornblut, what do you call it? The Maliblut. I think that's what he's named his car. So
yeah, it's something like
Phil,
that. Yeah.
Phil would join us here in about 10 minutes or so. You just never know what you're going to get on Sports Talk. That's why we encourage you to tune in every night from 6 until 8 o'clock. Phil may be here, Phil may be not. But the one thing we will have for you is a fun show. How are you, Josh Cohen, back in our Columbia studios?
I'm phoneless for the first time since I've had a phone. I am now phoneless. But apparently when you buy a $1,300 phone, it doesn't work or something like that. I don't know what I did. I set it up as it tells you, and it doesn't work. And that adds to the stress because Phil's trying to call me, tell me he's going to be behind, thinks something happened to me, and you never know. So
what a day. What a day. It's an absolute treat. Josh Cohen is off the grid for probably the first time in your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the first time you've been off the grid.
Well,
how's it feel?
Kind of freeing, honestly. But I finally have internet, finally can go search Twitter on the computer, so I'm all good. All good.
Well, please call Mother Hen because he's worried about you. He's terribly concerned that we're not here. But at least let him know. I'm sure he's already pulled us up online to make sure we're here. So we are here on Sports Talk, SportsTalkSC.com. Chris Bergen in Florence. We will have Phil Kornblut, if he can get out of the presidential motorcade at some point in time tonight, joining us on his way back from Birmingham. 888-898-2525. If you'd like to join us tonight, Josh will load you up. The phones in the studio do work, even though his personal phone not working. So Josh will be more than happy to talk to anybody on the phone today, I would imagine. So please call. Talk to Josh. Tell him it's not so bad to be without a mobile phone.
I like the way you said that. Please call.
Please call and talk to Josh at 888-898-2525. All right, coming up on the program, as is normally the case on a Talking Tuesday, we're hearing from the coaches who were talking earlier today. We'll hear from Dabo Swinney up at Clemson as the Tigers get ready to take on Virginia, and former assistant Tony Elliott will be on the opposite sideline as he rolls into Memorial Stadium with the Cavaliers this coming Saturday. We'll hear from Dabo, his thoughts about the matchup with a Virginia team that he says is a really, really good football team, and Coach Elliott is instilling great coaching into their team. So we'll find out a little bit more when we hear from Dabo coming up later on in the program. We'll also hear from Shane Beamer. Josh was over there earlier today to get the Gamecocks perspective coming off the loss at Alabama on Saturday and looking ahead to Oklahoma on Saturday. Josh, what did you take away from Beamer's press conference a bit earlier today?
You know, I'm going to be honest. My phone was not working then, so I was sitting in the back there working on my phone. But I was listening, and honestly, it sounds like Coach Beamer really sounds like he's working towards, obviously, they have a 24-hour rule, I guess, so they're not really down about it, but I would say that in previous weeks they've definitely sound more ecstatic, and I think it's gonna help them on their way back. There's definitely gonna be a lot of emotion for Coach Beamer going back up there to Oklahoma, and he talked about that for probably 10 minutes and passing by a street sign and saying, "Oh, I used to live down that road," or so. And he talked something funny also. Apparently, when he first got to Oklahoma, he stayed in a hotel for the first month or something like that, and they're staying in that same hotel. So, you know, but listen, I think all the players that we heard from, Kyle Kennard, Lenora Sellers, they sound like they're going to have a good game, and I mean, hopefully they can pull it together. You know,
one thing I found fascinating about he was asked about Norman, and by the way, you are now a member of an elite crew from Sports Talk. When we go to see Coach Beamer's press conference, it's either Phil or the other guys. So you have now joined Smitty and I as the other guys. because Coach doesn't see us enough to know who we are, but he does know that we're from Sports Talk and we're not Phil. So we're the other guys. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
You have
I feel
you have
honored.
joined an elite fraternity here on Sports Talk.
I feel honored.
But one thing, in addition to his comments about returning to Norman, I thought something else was fascinating. He was asked about how they're handling the pats on the back, which, reminded me years and years ago when Spurrier was at South Carolina and the Gamecocks would play a close game, but they would lose. The fans were so starved for success against a top flight team that they would actually applaud when the Gamecocks left the field, trying to cheer on and pump up the guys after loss. And Spurrier said, stop doing that. We lost the game. I don't care if we played well. We lost the game. And Beamer said that's sort of the same boat we're in right now. 2 weeks ago, we stunk. This week, we're coming off a game where we played well, not well enough to win, but certainly played much better than they did against Ole Miss. And the fans are saying, hey, great effort. And he said, we're not into moral victory. So trying to take the same approach. We didn't listen to the outside noise, if you will, 2 weeks ago when everybody said they stunk. Didn't listen to the outside noise coming off the Alabama game when they said, hey, you played well and probably should have won. See if they can translate that into a victory this coming Saturday in Norman, Oklahoma. Speaking of the Gamecocks, as I mentioned, Phil was in Birmingham a bit earlier today. We'll hear from Lamont Paris as well, head men's basketball coach at USC, as the Gamecocks get ready for the upcoming season. And they met with the media to run through the car wash, as they like to say, during football season. So we'll hear from Lamont Pierce. Also, Josh Harris will swing by, president of Darlington Raceway. There's a Talking Tuesday, but also a Darlington Tuesday, as they have sliced the playoff field down to 8. They'll go through the next 3 races, slice it down to the final 4, even though the NASCAR won't be able to use that. So the championship 4 going into the final race of the season. So we get Josh's take on what we saw at the Roval this past weekend and start looking ahead to the final cut-down races here in the playoffs starting this coming weekend. All right, 888-898-2525. We will have time to sprinkle in your phone calls. We'll do some recruiting as the evening progresses as well. And then, as I mentioned, Phil should be joining us here in about 10 minutes or so. So we'll certainly welcome Phil aboard and get his thoughts on the events of the day. As we hit the air, though, tonight, I wanted to start off with the ACC men's basketball. The SEC coming out with their men's basketball preseason poll predicted order of finish yesterday. Gamecocks back towards the back of the SEC, where they've been the last several years. And so on the flip side, the Clemson men's basketball team and the ACC's predicted order of finish projected to finish 4th, which I think Tiger fans right now should be considering what they've lost, but also what they have coming back. Maybe Clemson's starting to get a little bit of respect. They're not nationally, but at least in the ACC, Tiger's starting to get a little more respect. Picked 4th in the preseason poll, directly behind Duke. Everybody is on the Duke bandwagon once again now. And North Carolina and Wake Forest. That's where all 54 first-place votes went. Duke got 42 of them. North Carolina got 11, and then Wake Forest got the other first-place vote. Then it's Clemson, Virginia, Miami, Pitt, and NC State, and Louisville rounding out the first half, of the ACC. Keep in mind now, you're dealing with 18 teams in the Atlantic Coast Conference for basketball. So your top 9 rounds out with Louisville and starts with Duke. And then number 10 is Notre Dame. Number 11, Syracuse. Georgia Tech is 12th. SMU projected 13th. Followed by Virginia Tech, Florida State, California, Stanford, and Boston College, picked to finish dead last in the 18-team now Atlantic Coast Conference. Ian Shefflin and also Chase Hunter, the Clemson Tigers, named to the preseason All-ACC second team. And again, Clemson projected to finish 4th in the upcoming Atlantic Coast Conference race. And that's gets started, believe it or not, here in just a couple of weeks. Yeah. As the basketball season will open up November 4th.
You don't think that Clemson's gaining respect in the national scene?
I don't think so.
I think that they. I was talking to a buddy of mine that's a Georgia fan, and we were talking about the Georgia Clemson game at the beginning of the season, and we were talking about Dabo's been here 16 years.
Now remember, I'm mentioning basketball.
Oh,
I transitioned over to basketball. Okay. I think you went over to answer the phone.
Yeah, so. I answered. Yes. I was talking to Phil for a second, but yeah. sorry, go ahead. I was talking.
No problem. Yeah, I figured that's what happened. Yeah, transitioning over to the ACC men's basketball poll. I think Clemson gets some national respect in football. There's no question.
Yeah.
I just don't think they get a whole lot of national respect in men's basketball. And let's face it, up until the last 4 or 5 years, I'm not sure they've deserved it for the most part on a consistent basis. But I think Brad Brownell has done a really, really nice job of settling this program into his and molding in his image. And judging by what they did last season, even though they lost a bunch of guys, including P.J. Hall, I think they've got enough back, especially with those two guys I just mentioned in Ian Shefflin and Chase Hunter, to contend. I don't know if they've got quite enough to get in front of Duke, North Carolina, and or Wake Forest, but I'd like fourth. If I'm Clemson and I'm Brad Brownell, I feel like, all right, that's an attainable goal. Let's finish in that upper quadrant of the ACC, and I think we'll be really, really happy and then move forward. That's a tournament team if you finish fourth in the Atlantic Coast Conference for sure. All right, 888-898-2525. Some of the other news notes of the day before we get into the coaches and also hear from you. USA Today wrote a story late yesterday afternoon, actually hit the wire about the same time we went on the air last night, just didn't get a chance to delve into this, but I think it's fascinating from the standpoint of the SEC and the Big Ten, because we know they met last week, the conference commissioners and also all the athletics directors of those two leagues, to discuss a lot of things. Well, one of the things they evidently talked about was a potential scheduling agreement that could lead to a significant increase in media rights revenue, according to USA Today, further distancing the two super conferences from the rest of college football. Now, not just one, not two, but four people with knowledge of those discussions telling USA Today. The people who spoke on the condition of anonymity, of course, because of the sensitivity of the conversation, say the two super conferences could face off in as many as 12 to 16 regular season non-conference games a year or more to determine the extent of the increase in media rights revenue. The potential scheduling agreement is an answer to billions in lost revenue from the House legal case settlement of more than $2 billion to former players and further revenue sharing with players of at least $20 million to $23 million annually, beginning as soon as next year, the 2025 season. An industry source with knowledge of the process indicated the only way to maximize revenue is with an increased number of high-value non-conference games over a specific period of time, something that could be negotiated and or contracted. The SEC and Big Ten have already played 3 non-conference games against one another this season. You had Southern Cal and LSU, you had Alabama and Wisconsin, and Texas and Michigan, and all 3 of those were among the top 10 in overall viewership in the first month of the season. But 3 games per year, according to USA, won't change monetary deals. The 2 conferences have with television partners ABC, ESPN for the SEC, and Fox, CBS, and NBC for the Big Ten. The story continues by saying double digits. Oops, I knew that was going to happen. Excuse me. Let me pull it back up here. There we go. Double-digit games that can be promoted and sold as standalone events like the annual Big Ten versus ACC Basketball Challenge and draw unique advertising dollars are appealing to broadcast partners. There are still multiple hurdles to clear, including schedule structure, format of how games are paired, and revenue distribution. But officials in both conferences see the potential agreement as an answer to the rapidly changing financial landscape of college football. And hey, how about this? It's all about Josh Cohen making more money. Would you have ever seen that coming?
Absolutely not. No. It's always about money.
It's always. If you ever have a question anymore about college athletics,
about anything,
the answer, exactly, no matter what it is, why did he run that play as opposed to this play? That may be about money, because you win the game, then you've got a better chance of making more money as both the player and the coach. So, yeah, any question that you can come up with, for the most part, 90% of them, the answer is about money. So that'll be fascinating to watch moving forward, because if the SEC and Big Ten start excluding other leagues from non-conference games, now I don't think we'll run into a situation where the SEC would ask its rival schools not to play one another if they don't participate and play in the Big Ten, i.e., Carolina, Clemson, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech. I hope we don't get to that point, though we did see today that Georgia Tech is going to move its matchup with Georgia, the annual battle between those two. It's actually going to be played next year. I think this year it's in Athens. Next year's game in Atlanta will not actually be on campus at Georgia Tech. It is going to be played at the Atlanta Falcons home. So, yeah, now we've gone from neutral site games to begin the year to now neutral site rivalry games like we have with Georgia and Florida down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never, I didn't even know. I mean, I don't know why I didn't think about that, but Georgia and Georgia Tech, I mean, I think that's actually a good idea. I know you don't like neutral site games, but
I do not.
But a Georgia Tech game at the Falcon Stadium is not a bad idea.
That is probably what Georgia Tech is thinking. Going back to my initial comment about any question you have in college athletics, always the answer is money. That's probably what they're thinking. If we open up the stadium to a 70,000 seats facility, like 75, I'm not sure what Atlanta's, the Falcons facility holds, but I'm pretty sure it's bigger than Georgia Tech's. Then we can open up the opportunity, even if Georgia fans have more access to tickets, ultimately it's still our home game. So there's a chance we can make more revenue off of it. I still don't like it. But
I mean, you don't like the Florida Georgia game?
Not a big fan. I think it would be so much better on campus. I think that game will be so much better between the hedges and in the swamp than in Jacksonville. But it's been there for so long. I mean, there are a few traditions in college athletics that we hold on to. I'm okay. I'll that's one hill I won't die on. If they want to continue playing that neutral site game, what have they changed it to? The world's largest outdoor party now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know people that go to that game that don't even go to the game. They just tailgate outside. I mean, surprisingly, that's something that a lot of people do for all the games. But
yeah. I can live with that. Yeah. That's one hill I won't fight on. Now, moving other games like this, I think it's ridiculous. But again, that has passed me by. All right, 888-898-2525. We'll get to more of the headlines of the day. Also get you updated on our poll question. And it is, of course, a Touchstone Energy Talking Tuesday. We'll hear from Shane Beamer, also Dabo Sweeney. And we will also hear from Lamont Paris, head men's basketball coach at USC, along with Josh Harris at Darlington Raceway. But let's get off to the phones. Josh, I see just number 2 that we just have Ray.
Yeah, just Ray right now.
All right, let's go to Ray in Lee County. You're up first here tonight on Sports Talk. Ray, welcome in. Good evening. How are you?
Doing good, guys. Hey, I'm a Gamecock fan, but I just going to throw out there, I heard you talk about Brad Brownell earlier. What a job he has done there. I mean, you think about it, and where I go back on this, I remember years and years and years, Clemson never defeated UNC in Chapel Hill basketball. I mean, even as a Gamecock, I felt bad for Clemson because it always announced that. How I think it set a record or something. But Brad Brownell's won twice in Chapel Hill. I think that alone should get him a contract extension. And the way he had that team finishing and the way they're pretty consistent. So I just want to throw it out there for Brad Brownell. Man, what a job he has done there. But what I was calling about on my Gamecocks, man, I tell you guys, I think these last 6 games are going to set the tone for Beamer on out. I think, man, in fact, I think the game this weekend may be the biggest game since Beamer's been here. I really do, because if you go there and win that game, you're 4-3. You go into another bye, which is crazy that we just had a bye 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. You're feeling good and you're thinking, well, we're probably going to get that bowl. But God forbid if we lose that game and you're off 2 weeks, and at that point, you're 3-4. Man, it will not set well with the base. But I just want to get your guys' take on that. Thank you very kindly.
Well, Ray, they actually already gave him a contract extension last season, at the end of last season,
and he earned it.
Yeah,
And Ray's right. You win at Chapel Hill twice as head coach at Clemson. You deserve perhaps a lifetime contract. But no, he certainly earned that extension for sure. But to his point about South Carolina, and this is a critical ball game for them. And on the flip side, it's a big ball game for Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's sitting 1-2 in the SEC and 4-2 overall. They're on the same boat that the Gamecocks are in, just one more win on the overall side of the coin. But where they're sitting, they're thinking they circled this game. Shane Beamer's homecoming, but they circled this game when the season started and said, all right, we come off Texas, regardless of what happens, if we're coming off a major high because we just beat, and Oklahoma State and Texas A&M fans won't want to hear this, but we just beat our biggest rival. And it's true of Texas as well. Texas hates Oklahoma more than any other school and vice versa. So we come off an extreme high with the win, or we come off a devastating loss. We've got to beat South Carolina. And now the Gamecocks are coming off a game in which they played extremely well. You take the turnovers away, you can't, but you take the turnovers away, and they probably pulled that one off in Alabama. And now you go to Oklahoma, and you find out how much Lenore Sellers has grown up in the last couple of weeks, how much playing at Tuscaloosa will benefit him going into another tough environment on Saturday afternoon. I think the Gamecocks may have a little bit of an advantage playing at 11:45 in the morning. That always seems to favor the road team when you play early in the day because you don't have to lie around the hotel all afternoon. Go ahead.
Did you know that Lenore Sellers is now wearing contacts?
I did notice that. I was watching the game Saturday, and that was the first thing when they panned in on him. Yeah. And you could see inside his face mask, and that was the first thing I saw, and I thought it was weird. What did he have? Did he talk about that today?
Just a little bit. He mentioned that he normally wears his glasses or whatever he wears. I think they might be like some kind of special glasses for athletics, but regardless, he wears his glasses for training and and conditioning and that kind of stuff. But and he, like I said, they were doing training today and workouts and stuff, and he was wearing contacts today because he forgot his glasses. But regardless, he noticed that it's helped him a lot just because it's not another thing he has to put on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought the goggles were a cool marketing opportunity for him because I thought if he took off, and I still think he's going to become a pretty solid, regardless of what Lee Sterling told Josh and I on Friday, that they're going to move him to tight end or linebacker next season. I don't think that's going to happen, and I think anybody who believes that probably changed their mind. Lee may have after watching the game against Alabama. But I thought if he ever took off, you got those big fat heads that everybody sells, especially for basketball season, Josh. Right. I thought for sure the student section at South Carolina would show up for a game all in goggles. And I thought that would be a wonderful marketing opportunity for him.
Hopefully none of them are listening because that's a new marketing idea for everybody at USC. That'd be the new thing. They make up some kind of slogan or something, and it would have to do with goggles.
Lenore's goggles. I mean, it's got to happen, but he's got to start wearing them again. I mean, if he plays in contacts, that's not going to work. He's got to play. He's got to play and beat Oklahoma in goggles for something like that to take off.
Well, when I don't even know which one of us is going up to Oklahoma, but maybe one of you guys should talk to him about it.
Well, that'll be Phil if he can ever get away from the presidential motorcade.
Right? Yeah.
So we'll see.
Not a bad idea.
See. Evidently, he has landed. The Eagle has landed in Atlanta. So coming out of the break, we'll catch up with Phil. Ray, we appreciate the phone call. Yeah, I agree with you, though. I think it is a critically important ball game for the Gamecocks and could set them up for the rest of the season. And certainly with a bye week, you don't want to go in off 2 straight losses against good teams.
By our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We are clear and chilly overnight with a low dipping down to 45. Tomorrow, a bit cooler than today and gorgeous. Sunshine-filled, a high temp topping out at 64. We have a cold night in store with a low of 40. Sunshine every day the rest of the week with high temps in the 70s from Thursday and into the weekend. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Questions about Medicare? I'm Joel Lurie, and at Lurie Life and Health, we can help you find a plan that meets your needs and budget. The Medicare annual enrollment period is from October 15th to December 7th. Why use an out-of-state call center when you can work with a local agency? Lurie Life and Health. We're local, independent, and can help you over the phone or in our office. And our service is at no cost to you. Call Lurie Life and Health in Columbia, 803-256-2067.
Summer News. I'm Keith Peters reporting officials say federal disaster workers have resumed door-to-door visits as part of hurricane recovery efforts in North Carolina. The visits were temporarily suspended after reports emerged over the weekend that Federal Emergency Management Agency employees could be targeted by militia members. The government response to Hurricane Helene has become a rampant subject of disinformation. Donald Trump has seized on an opening to sound his frequent argument that imposing huge tariffs on foreign goods would amount to an economic elixir, one he claims would raise enormous sums for the government, protect U.S. firms from overseas competition, and prod foreign companies to open factories in the U.S. On Wall Street, the Dow by 324 points, the Nasdaq dropped 187, the S&P lower by 44. This is SRN News.
The instability of... Some people would tell you the world's on fire right now. Well, this isn't a political message. It's a message in support of Ken and his team at Broker Solar in downtown Columbia. I love what they're doing. This is meant to remind you about something. You can't pick your power company. It's not like swapping cell phone companies every time they ask for another rate increase. You know what, though? You can take control of your power bill. You can either pay the man or be the man. You can own your own energy. You need to reach out to Broker Solar. In famously hot Columbia, when it's 100 degrees in the shade, you won't lose power when the grid can't handle the heat. You'll have stored energy and a solar-powered battery. During peak hours, when the power company up, you'll run off your solar panels and you'll get the last laugh. Hey, solar's not for everyone. It's a serious financial commitment with serious financial benefits. My suggestion is you reach out to Broker Solar and the guys and let them answer your questions. Online, it's brokersolar.com, or give Ken a call at 807-7417. That's 807-7417 for Broker Solar.
Hun, did you see the power bill? I feel like we're trying to cool the outside with these old original windows from the house.
Yeah, they are old. They let the cool air out and the hot air in. Plus, they're really ugly. I think it's time we finally get those new windows.
I think we need to call Redbird Windows and Doors.
Oh yeah, they've got the Miller's house up the street.
I got their card when I was talking to the Millers. Here it is, Redbird Windows and Doors, 727-0561. Oh, and let's look at it too, redbirdwindows.com.
Give me that number again, please.
727-0561.
The fall in Casey, West Columbia is so wonderful, and now it's time for Rhythm on the River, proudly presented by the Greater Casey, West Columbia Chamber. This week, one party's not enough at Riverwalk Amphitheater, so this Thursday, it is time to jam. With Cash Money Experience, what a party! Then on Friday, check out Curve, formerly known as Nahi Groove. There'll be great food trucks, great music, and the best atmosphere. It's Rhythm on the River. For more information on this and all events, check out www.visitcwc.com. SC.com.
Lots of plumbing companies out there. Few are truly local. Time to discover the difference with Franklin Drain Cleaning. See, when I faced plumbing woes at the Cohen home, Josh and his dedicated team, well, they were my go-to solution. They make a commitment to exceptional service. They arrived on time, clearly detailed all the costs and procedures, and efficiently handled all my repairs without any surprises. These days, how often do we complain about a lack of customer service out there? With Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, these folks are professional. They're courteous. They're skilled at what they do, and they've earned my trust, and they've earned my recommendation to you. From urgent repairs to the tankless water heater you've always wanted, they've got you covered. Visit franklinplumbing.sc.com or call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. Hey, you tell them Kev sent you from The Point. I'm pretty sure you'll want to thank me later.
What the hell? What the hell, Donald Trump? I mean, seriously. Who drives through in a motorcade in Atlanta, Georgia at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, blocking the entire city? No, I'm talking about the entire downtown metropolitan area of Atlanta, from Hartsfield Airport all the way out to Georgia 400. If you know Atlanta, Georgia 400 on the north side, blocking 285. It was totally shut down. And you know what, Mr. Bergen, I know how you like to give me grief when I show up in the studio minutes before airtime, or on occasion, a rare comment-like occasion when I might be late. This was not my fault. I was on 285, 15 miles from my destination at 4:50. And then traffic comes to a screeching halt, and I turn to WSB to listen to their traffic reports in Atlanta, and we find I didn't know what the problem was. I figured it was a wreck or just heavy traffic. And then I find out Trump is busy. You know what I did? So I got off on some side roads. I saw a house with a Trump sign. I pulled over, took out my 3-iron, and I tore that sign apart. You know, I've always wondered.
Tore that sign apart.
I'm glad you mentioned about traffic reports because I've always been fascinated the value and the worthwhile nature of them. Because 9 times out of 10, folks in Atlanta and Charlotte and Jacksonville, Miami, you name it, outside of New York, where virtually I think most people take public transportation. But if you're driving in Atlanta, and they tell you that the road that you take every day to work is closed or has a problem, but they don't give you an alternate route. How many people actually know another way to get to work?
Oh, I think they do. I mean, look, I got my daughter, her family here, and they know all the surface roads. The problem is
for them.
You get off at 285. I finally got off about 2 exits down from where I normally would have gotten off, and of course everybody else is as well. So all the surface roads were backed up because people were getting off 285. And when I tell you 5 lanes across in a complete gridlock, 5 lanes across, not moving or moving very slowly. So thank you for jumping in. Sorry about that. Not my fault. There are times that you are legit in yelling at me, as you do. There are times I am not taking the blame.
I'll cut you some slack. And thank goodness for GPS that got you, because who knows, you may still, and that's probably the advantage to a traffic report. If you actually hear your road is being blocked, so you can jump off another road and hope that GPS can get you home.
Well, I left Birmingham in plenty of time, 2:15, 2:30. It's only 2 hours, and was rolling just smoothly. The surprising thing was I-20, which usually backs up once you pass Douglasville and get towards the 285 connector and you get closer to Six Flags. That usually backs up. But that was smooth sailing. And I'm thinking to myself, I got this in a breeze. I got this in a breeze today.
Yep,
get on 285 and get off to a good start and drive past Truist Field, or is it Truist Park? What do they call it? Whatever, where the Braves are not playing because they're not in the playoffs anymore. The empty Atlanta ballpark, drove past that in good shape, and then bang, it all stopped. So anyway, enough of that. Here, glad to rock and roll. Enjoyed the time in Birmingham. We'll hear from Lamont Paris. I'm sure you've mentioned everything we got coming up. We got a jammed up Talking Tuesday brought to you by Touchstone Energy. And Lamont Paris feels very good about his basketball team. Talked to Nick Pringle, listened to Colin Murray Boyles, and Nick Pringle, they're going to make him more of an offensive weapon. He wasn't used as an offensive weapon at Alabama. They used him as a defensive player and a rebounder. They want points. He's going to have a chance to show off his offensive skills. He's changed his free throw shooting. You might remember, especially if you focused on him in the NCAA tournament, he was a one-handed free throw shooter. Remember that? And, he wasn't too bad. He wasn't great. But he says he's dropped that he's gone back to the conventional free throw shooting style, and it's working well for him. He's looking forward to getting the ball in the post and showing some offensive moves. He says he's got that in his repertoire, and he's ready to show that off. So look for the Gamecocks to be pretty good, though, again, they were picked, 11th in the preseason SEC poll. So not a lot of respect, but, Lamont Paris addressed that and said he knew that question would come up. He says, look, his name isn't magic around the SEC. They don't get a lot of respect, et cetera, and they'll just use that as motivation. He's got no problem being picked low because he uses that as motivation. So Gamecock.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the Gamecock women, no problem with their preseason selections because they're number 1 in the AP women's preseason top 25. Of course, they've been picked to win the SEC regular season championship again. They're going to be playing tonight. They've got a charity exhibition game tonight in Memphis. But I wanted to mention this, and then we'll jump into what you're going to say while we're talking about the USC women. I was just reviewing some notes on them today while I had a chance. Just to remind everybody what they will carry into this season coming off of their national championship undefeated run of last year. So they're going to go into this season with a 38-game winning streak, a 47-game SEC winning streak, a 59-game home winning streak, a 32-game road winning streak, a 22-game non-conference winning streak, an 11-game winning streak against ranked teams. And there's others, 59 in a row at home, 32 in a row on the road, 39 at home in a row against SEC teams. I mean, it's mind-boggling what they
really
have put
is.
together. And Don Staley said yesterday that at this point, compared to last year, this team is better than last year's team. All right.
Let's go ahead and give them the trophy now. I mean, it's scary what she has been able to build in terms of how dominant they have been. And it'll be fun to see them tonight just to get a little basketball. But, yeah, they won't get challenged until March. I mean, I know they will in the conference play, and they've got some solid. That's the one thing I like about her scheduling. She'll go out and play anybody that will want to play them. She was actually complaining at the end of last season that they couldn't find teams that want to play them. So, but no, what I wanted to say about your comments regarding South Carolina men's basketball, first off with Nick Pringle. You remember you and I were chatting about this before we went on the air tonight, the game he had against Clemson in the Elite Eight. I mean, he was fabulous, 16 points, 11 rebounds. And here's a guy who drew. That meant how dominant he was inside. He drew 10 fouls against him and went to the line, hit 8 of 13. So, yeah, I think that showed probably Lamont Paris, because I'm sure he went back and watched some of that tape and said, you know what? I think I can use this guy to score. He's not just a rebounder. We need to get him the basketball and let him score. And he got those 16 points on just 6 shots, too. But the other thing, and I mentioned this yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to expound upon it, but the preseason polls in basketball anymore are about as bogus as any. I mean, how can you possibly legitimize a poll when you don't know who's playing on a team from year to year? I mean, South Carolina went through that last year. You saw how good they were with what they got out of the transfer portal, but nobody knew that in the preseason that they were going to blossom into one of the SEC's best teams. And you may see this similar circumstance here. I realize why they do it. It gives us something here on Sports Talk to discuss. But I wish, in basketball in particular, basketball maybe more so than anything else, because you get a couple of good guys out of the portal, and that can rocket you up through the standings in your league. I wish they would wait until about December or maybe even January before you come out with the first polls, because they would actually be legitimate and realistic at that point in time. I don't see this Gamecock team finishing 11th in the SEC this coming year. They may, but I don't think so.
Well, they've got to replace a lot of firepower and leadership. People will forget about the job that Cooper did running that team and being the focus of their defense, setting the tone for them defensively. So the transfer that they've got, Harris feels very, very good about him and says he's a very good defensive player. And Jacoby Wright is back, and of course he knows the system extremely well. So we'll see if they're able to pick up where Cooper left off and the others. Okay, our phone number 888-898-2525. Some folks are waiting on the line, so let's hit them up. We're going to hear from Shane Beamer coming up, Dabo Sweeney coming up, also from Lamont Paris and from Josh Harris at Darlington. I'm sure he'll have plenty to say about what happened in Charlotte over the weekend. Let's go to Bobby in Casey next up here on the program. Bobby, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well, Phil. How are you? I'm glad you made it in.
Yeah.
One thing, and I hope you had a happy holidays there for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But
thank you.
My thing was to mention about Mercedes-Benz Dome holding Georgia and Georgia Tech. I did retweet it on my Twitter X feed today about the economic impact and everything with the two teams playing the game instead of Bobby Dodd and whatever Athens Stadium name is. That there was economic. I think Chip Towers AJC put it out, but it was pretty nice. And for the youngsters there that might not have been old enough, the Pigspin Classics were played in Giant Stadium back in the mid-late 80s and early 90s. That was the preseason big heavy hitter matchups.
Well,
so I just
Georgia Tech, it's Georgia Tech's home game, as you alluded to. They're getting $10 million, Georgia Tech. They're paying Georgia Tech $10 million, which obviously is a lot more money than they would make at a home game. I say obviously. I guess that must be the case. I don't know how their fans feel about that, because now you're talking about, Georgia fans will buy up every ticket they can get their hands on. I don't know that Georgia Tech fans, I don't know how the ticket sales are going to go, how they're going to divide that up, if it's going to be, Georgia Tech fans get all the priority and Georgia gets what's left over, or Georgia gets 5,000 tickets. But, I got a feeling there'll be a lot of red and black in that building compared to, yellow and white, whatever their colors are, yellow and gold and white, whatever. I think it's gold and white. $10 million, though. And, Bobby, thank you. And Chris, I know you, more than anybody I know, hate neutral field games, neutral site, anything. You hate it. And, I mean, $10 million for an athletic department that probably needs the money. You sell out. You sell out your rivalry game, not sell out in terms of tickets. You sell out to a higher bidder.
Right.
Your rivalry game. What does that say about you as a program?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and what does it say about college athletics? I mean, the one tradition that we love as much as the bands and the entrances and the Gamecock Walk and the Tiger Walk and all that stuff we do pregame, the one wonderful thing that college athletics has probably over the NFL in terms of football is the rivalry games. I mean, yeah, football's got Green Bay, Minnesota, and Green Bay, Chicago, but I mean that can't touch Alabama, Auburn. But I mean, at what point in time do we finally stand up and say, and I know the answer to this, so don't laugh at me, enough money is enough money? I mean, what if David Tepper came to Clemson and South Carolina and said, I will pay you each $20 million to play your rivalry game here?
Mm-hmm.
Would the athletic departments and the athletic directors, would they stand up and say, no, we're not going to do that. We don't need the money that bad. We want to play the game in Columbia. We want to play the Clemson.
I hope that they would.
Me
but,
too.
Yeah. Did we say that at the same time? I hope that they would, but I don't know. I mean, and here's the thing. These people, when you would question them about why you do this, they will put the fan base on the defensive because they'll say, look, we have to have the money to pay the players. And you want us to have good players, to have the best players, we got to have the money. So you want to give us the money? Give us the money. If not, we've got to do these things to create more revenue because we're going to have to spend, they're saying, 20, 22 million. That's going to be the first year. That's going to climb. The budget for paying the rosters is going to climb, 25 million, 30 million. It's just only natural. It's going to go up because players are going to demand more and more money. And where's it going to come from? They're going to keep telling you, you've got to give it, or they've got to do things like this. So don't put it past any AD for making a deal like this if he sees a big golden egg waiting at the end of the day there. All right, thank you for the phone call. 888-898-2525. The Alabama-South Carolina game on ABC drew a viewing audience of 6 million. It's not bad.
Wow.
For a 12 o'clock kick. Not bad. Oregon, Ohio State drew 10.4 million. Oklahoma, Texas, 7.6 million. So Alabama, South Carolina was the third most watched game, week 7 in college football. All tuning in to watch the Gamecocks.
Impressive, considering all the games that were on Saturday and how many competitive games there were. I mean, it was a really good football game if you didn't have a dog in the fight and just wanted to see a good game. But, wow, that's really good, especially that early in the afternoon. Normally you would expect those kind of numbers in the primetime games.
Yep. Let's hit one more call. We go to Scott in North Carolina. And, Scott, thank you for joining us on Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm good, Phil. It's actually old Tar Hizzle. But,
Tar Hizzle, where have you been, sir?
And all work, no play. All work, no play.
I understand that. Golly gee.
It was my little girl's senior year last year, so I dedicated enjoying her finish out her career at Georgia, and for a good year. So anyway, talking about those games and how many great games we've had, I've watched more football from teams that I would never used to watch, and the games have been enjoyable. But I do want to throw this out there. I want to hear what your thoughts are. I hear a lot of people saying, teams are so comparable this year, and the transfer portals really helped that. But I started thinking about it this weekend. I think it's more mediocrity than it is anything else. And there's NIL money and everything, and we're not going to see this immediately, but I do think we're starting to see the beginnings of it. I mean, I started thinking about where's the dominant players at? Where's the names we talk about? The Julius Peppers of the world, or the Deion Sanders of the world. I mean, I can't think of a single lockdown, bump and run cornerback in the country right now. A defense that nobody wants to play right now. Even Alabama and South Carolina. South Carolina actually had more yards by a good bit than Alabama did, obviously losing the game. But, I mean, I don't see that defense. I don't see that. I wonder if that caliber athlete that used to have to work so hard to try to get that level to make that payday is comfortable. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are. And are we watching the sport that we love and we saw those down?
All right. Thank you. Kind of breaking up there. Hadn't really thought about that. I would say Travis Hunter might fall into that category of a shutdown corner if you want to answer that question. But I guess what he's saying is, and we appreciate it, Tar Hizzle. And Tar Hizzle now, he's in basketball mode. He's with his football team going down the toilet. He's in basketball mode. I think he's suggesting there's just no great teams out there. There's nobody that like has a dominant. He's saying no dominant defense. Is there a great super team out there? We saw Ohio State lose. Is Oregon that? Well, Texas. I mean, right now you'd have to pin that on Texas. They look really, really good to beat Oklahoma the way they did on a neutral field. That was a pretty strong statement game by Texas, I would say. And they only gave up 3 points, right?
Yeah, I would think Texas is probably as close to a dominant team that we have right now, but I think he brings up an interesting point because you look back to recent years, there's no 2019 LSU team out there right now. There's no Trevor Lawrence Clemson undefeated team right now. Did you just look at them and say they are light years, or heck, the Georgia teams the last couple of years that won national championships? I don't think the separation is quite as big. There's not as big a gap as there has been.
Okay, good phone call. We'll hit the break. Be right back.
Hi, this is Billy Downer from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Are you looking for a safe place to shoot your rifle or handgun? Did you know that the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources offers 4 manned ranges across the state in Pickens County, Spartanburg County, Richland County, and Charleston County? For more information on our public ranges, visit dnr.sc.gov/shooting.
Your home is where your memories live. It's where you laugh and where you love. We understand the importance of the valuables under your roof, tangible and intangible alike. So no matter what's around the corner, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
Call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171 for all of your Midlands insurance needs.
Set your youth up for a lifetime of financial success with Smart Start from Founders Federal Credit Union. Smart Start products and educational resources help teach kids and teens the basics of saving, budgeting, and smart spending. Help them learn smart money skills to jumpstart their financial journey with Smart Start savings, debit, certificates, and educational resources. Learn more at foundersfcu.com/smartstart. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
Great things don't happen all at once. Big dreams take time. And when it comes to saving for college, it's those small steps that make a difference. I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 5-2 college savings plan, is designed to be taken step by step. You can start with any amount, contributions are tax deductible, and earnings grow tax-free. So why wait? Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I'm not a case manager. I'm a lawyer for over 35 years. I don't charge 40% for your injury in your rec case or any on-the-job injury. Call 803-765-2968 and ask for Jim Corbett or email me, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com, for the experience of a lawyer handling your injury case. Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968. jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. Put 35 years of experience to work on your injury case.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate in the Palmetto State. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with a family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at sccattle.org. Beef, it's what's for dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff program.
Last throw, big guy.
Come on, baby. I need me a giant bear.
I got this. Ben, throw. Oh, what? Look who won a giant bear. That's a grizzly.
Oh, Mama's baby bear.
When you join the South Carolina Education Lottery's Players Club, you get way more than you expect. More chances, more wins, and more surprises.
Yeah, he's had all his shots. Just don't look him in the eye.
Join the Players Club at seeducationlottery.com because more happens here.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy. Find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
Jam-packed Talking Tuesday brought to you by Touchstone Energy. Touchstone Energy Bowl now on December 21st because of the extra week of the high school season. Phone number 888-898-2525. Let's go to Andy in Columbia very quickly before we hit the top of the hour. Andy, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Well, I'm good. Let me get the important part out first. LGM.
Okay. You okay? That's good. People don't know what that means around here. It means let's go Mets.
Okay.
Hey, listen, you know what?
And,
I know that all of baseball is rooting for the Yankees to win so that we'll have either a Yankee Mets or Yankee Dodgers World Series. That would be huge either way. But if you're a baseball fan in New York, think about this. You've got the Mets possibly for the next 3 days in New York. You got the Yankees tonight, then they leave, then the Mets for 3, and it's possible the Yankees could be back unless they sweep. They could be back. You've got a week of playoff baseball possibly ahead in New York. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Well, sure didn't give me a lot of time, but I got the important part out.
That's all we need is the important part. The rest of it's just fluff.
I do have some football questions, but you want to talk
hang
about
on. If you hang on, we'll get you at the top of the hour break. We'll get you in there between the coaches or before the coaches. We got the coaches coming up. Josh Harris as well. We will be back.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. The Biden administration believes it has won assurances from Israel that it will not strike Iranian nuclear or oil sites as it seeks to retaliate following Iran's missile barrage against the Jewish state earlier this month. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby says Israel will decide its own response to Iranian missile strikes.
Whether and to what degree Israel conducts any kind of response, really for them to speak to and not us. And we need to be very circumspect about not inserting ourselves into that kind of operational decision-making by the Israelis.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says we listen to the opinions of the United States, but we will make our final decisions based on our national interests. Florida counties hard hit by Hurricane Milton are returning to a semblance of normalcy. Governor Ron DeSantis says most of Florida has power.
We've now had over 4 million accounts restored to power since Hurricane Milton came. That is the fastest that's ever been done for that many accounts. And so you're even without power for a few hours, it could be a real pain in the rear end. But we had over 50,000 linemen. These folks really got to work. So you got about 170,000 accounts right now that are without power.
Still, some hard-hit neighborhoods remain without power Monday, with many severely damaged homes and businesses, their streets flooded and filled with debris. Those could take some time to recover. Stocks had a down day after some record-breaking highs. The Dow was down by 324 points. The Nasdaq dropped 187. The S&P lower by 44, and oil down to $70.94 a barrel. More at townhall.com.
Anyone with everyday pains, I've got a question. What are you missing out on? Probably a lot. So let me tell you about Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. It doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In about 3 weeks, you'll discover what it's like to feel better. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4 Relief. The Pope is dead.
From Focus Features comes the electrifying new film, Conclave.
We're about to choose the most famous man in the world.
Based on the international best-selling thriller.
The Pope discovered something before he died.
Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci.
Ambition becomes corruption.
John Lithgow and Isabella Rossellini.
We sisters have eyes and ears.
Top critics are raving. Conclave is hands down the best picture of the year.
I have to find the truth.
Conclave, rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters October 25th.
5.
There's been a drastic increase in the number of migrants found dead in New Mexico, right by the United States-Mexico border. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
The most recent data shows that during the first 8 months of 2024, the bodies of 108 presumed migrants were found near the border in New Mexico. In 2023, the remains of 113 presumed migrants were found. That compares to 9 bodies in 2020 and 10 bodies found in 2019. It's not clear why more migrants are being found in that area, but many experts say smugglers are treating migrants more harshly and are bringing them on paths that could be more dangerous in extreme heat. I'm Donna Warder.
The Office of the Medical Investigator that performs autopsies for New Mexico has hired additional investigators to handle that influx. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We are clear and chilly overnight with a low dipping down to 45. Tomorrow, a bit cooler than today and gorgeous. Sunshine-filled skies, a high temp topping out at 60. We have a cold night in store with a low of 40. Sunshine every day the rest of the week with high temps in the 70s from Thursday into the weekend. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Back we are, Sports Talk Media Network. Talking Tuesday, brought to you by Touchstone Energy. Phil Kornblut in Atlanta. Tomorrow night we'll be at Florence, there with our affiliate, ESPN Radio in Florence. Community broadcasters will be at Rivals, a store divided. Chris, you'll be there as well. So
yeah, looking forward to that.
Come on out and say hey to Chris, and you can just kind of wave me, but Chris is the friendlier of the two, so you can say hey to Chris and chummy up to him and all that kind of good stuff. But don't bother me. I'm not in a very good mood right now. Don't know when I'm going to get out of this bad mood after my ride today just put me in a horrible mood. Everything I did well over the weekend for the holiday, I've just totally blown that away now, so I got to start over Got to start over again.
See, I told you to leave politics out of sports talk. See, there was your problem.
888-898-2525. A lot coming up. Andy held over. He had a football comment or question. Fire away, my friend. Hope you had a good holiday and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you're filling up your new atonements that you're going to have to make for this year coming up now already, huh, Phil?
My cup already runneth over after the last hour and a half. Yeah.
And you thought you broke as a racer last year. Boy, oh boy. For this year, you're really going to be in trouble if you've already started off this way.
All right, get to it.
I heard a lot of people yesterday talking about different issues about the Carolina game on Saturday. I didn't hear anybody really mention the fourth quarter drive that resulted in that. I don't even know if we can call it a field goal try because it was so pitiful. Or do we miss Mitch Jeter? But the hold, while we were moving the ball, it set us back. I thought that was pretty significant for the game right there. They were moving the ball. I think it was a pretty nice little run. Number 52, holding call.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss something there, or did you not find that to be significant play?
Well, any penalty in that situation is significant. Yeah, I mean you're right. You're eyeballing something that was crucial at that time, and it's something that has hurt South Carolina throughout the season. Penalties at inopportune times, pre-snap penalties that stymie drives and force them to kick field goals instead of getting touchdowns. Those are things that they still can't get past. I think they were only penalized 6 times, but 3 of those were pre-snap penalties again. So they have got to clean that up somehow. No. I'm just saying, though, they've had...
This was a during play snap.
Right. I get that. But I'm saying they've just
had
a
whole
problem with that.
If we would have hit that field goal, it would have been, a totally different totally different look on the outcome of the game. Now, let me ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
If this team ends up really not, if we don't see good play out of this offensive line the rest of the year, and as y'all were talking yesterday, do you think it's a lot to do with player development and what I took from what y'all were saying? Do you think there's a good possibility we might see the offensive line coaches disappear, Sean Elliott becoming a new offensive line coach, and bring in a tight end coach to, see what Sean Elliott can do with developing these young men that, were supposedly top-notch, the great players to come out of the state, and what we were all hoping that they would be?
Yeah.
Because the truth is, if the new AD doesn't make a change this year because of things going bad in the football program, Beamer's definitely going to be on the hot seat next year because, as we all know, ADs like their own people in place. And if you can't show him you can do the job, I don't know who the new AD is, or will be, but I would think that he's got his eye, when he's hired, on someone that he would like to be put as the new head coach of the football team if they are not living up to expectations of what he wants and what this fan base wants.
Well, 2 years in a row with no bowl game would really put Beamer on the hot seat, whether it was Tanner or the new guy. So this is a crucial 6 games ahead for South Carolina. They've got to get to a bowl game.
Well, what do you think about Sean Elliott?
Well,
he's
there.
Offensive line coach.
He's there. Well, if you need to go that direction, look, Beamer has shown he's not afraid to make the call on his coaching staff. And if he feels like a guy is not getting it done, i.e. the running backs coach this past season, if the guy's not getting it done, he's not afraid to make the change. And if he decides that Lonnie Teasley's not the guy, is not getting it done, he's got a proven veteran waiting right there. And I really think Sean Elliott is somewhat being wasted. And thank you for the call. Chris, I think Sean Elliott is being wasted some degree as a tight ends coach because his expertise is the offensive line. Now, he is the run game coordinator.
Right.
So I guess he assists a great deal in that area. But let's face it, he's an offensive line coach. Robbie Caldwell was an offensive line coach. And offensive line coaches, they're their own breed. I mean, they're their own fraternity, and they live offensive line coaching and blocking and drawing up schemes. That's what they do. And you don't usually see offensive line coaches coach a variety of other positions. You might see a cornerback coach safeties, or a defensive tackle coach slide out and coach defensive ends, a running back coach slip over coach receivers. Offensive line coaches are usually pretty locked into the offensive line.
Well, it almost have to be. I mean, it's complex. Not only is it a physical unit, it's also a very complex unit from what we've told. I never played the position, so I'm not sure. But, I mean, we're always told that that's not an easy position to play, nor is it to coach. I just wonder if part of this is with Justin Stepp not wanting to coach tight ends and Shane Beamer finding a way to bring Sean Elliott back on the staff. He didn't have an option, and just kind of pseudo, hey, by the way, help us out with the offensive line, and oh, by the way, we'll also make you tight ends coach. Because I agree with you, that just never seemed to fit him, and I'm pretty sure it's probably not something he wanted to do, other than the opportunity to get back to South Carolina and be able to lend his hand in all those aspects. I mean, he's got his hand in a lot of different things: run game coordinator, tight ends, helping out a little bit with the offensive line. But I think you're right. I think his heart's probably in that offensive line first and foremost.
Yeah, I would think so. All right, thank you for the phone call. Let's get to Shane Beamer as he talked with the media today, Talking Tuesday here on Sports Talk, brought to you by Touchstone Energy. And Shane Beamer, of course, trying to get past that tough loss at Alabama, but also trying to stay upbeat and optimistic and looking forward to going to Oklahoma this Saturday, only a 3-point underdog. Here's Shane Beamer.
All right. Like Steve said, thanks for coming out. I know I mentioned it in the teleconference on Sunday night, but just one more time, wanted to send our prayers to the North Carolina football team and the family of Tylee Craft on that tragic loss. Puts things so much in perspective, and did not know him, but obviously hits close to home with him being from Sumter and a high school teammate of O'Donnell Fortune and Nate Harris Wainick. So praying for that family and praying for the Tar Heel community and hurt for them as well. New week for us, great challenge ahead of us going out to Norman and the University of Oklahoma. Got a ton of respect for Coach Venables. Obviously, what he did at Clemson speaks for itself, and what he's doing out in Oklahoma speaks for itself. Got a fantastic defense, very opportunistic. I think they're number 7 in the country in takeaways defensively, so they do a great job of flying around and creating overs. They've got really talented guys at all 3 levels of their defense. Offensively, I know they've played 2 different quarterbacks, but both equally talented, and they've had some injuries at the wide receiver position, but I see a group on tape. It's really impressive how hard they're playing in all 3 phases. That's a testament to Coach Venables and the culture that he's created, and they're coming off a disappointing performance last week and our disappointing outcome, just like we are as well. So we need to respond the right way and be ready to go on Saturday morning at 11:45 Central Time out in Norman. So eager for that opportunity. Our guys had a good day of practice today. Like the way they've responded so far coming off the disappointment of last Saturday, and need to finish out the week on the right track and get ready to go play a really good football team on Saturday.
Shane, you mentioned Brent Venables. He's always been known as a guy who really excels at getting other team signals and deciphering them and used to work to his advantage. So how are you guys planning to combat that, not to give him anything easy, Scout?
Yeah, I think sometimes that can be overrated in a lot of ways. There's no question it happens. I'm not necessarily saying with them, but I mean, it happens across college football every single Saturday. So it's something that we're always aware of, David. We go fast at times. We huddle at times. We don't huddle at times. Defensively, they've got I think what they do a really good job of is seeing the formation that you're in and then being able to call defenses based off seeing what you're in. So we got to do a good job of trying to keep them off balance. Their defensive coordinator was at Jacksonville State last year. So we played Jacksonville State last year, and now he's the defensive coordinator out in Norman as well. So that's something for us offensively and defensively every single Saturday that we're always aware of.
And one injury question, Ja'Kai Moore, is there any chance he might be able to come back this year?
I would say that's doubtful at this point. We'll see what the future holds, but at this point, would say doubtful.
Hey, Shane, you guys have had a few of these close losses now, LSU, Alabama. Just how close do you feel like this team is to getting to where it wants to go and finishing off these games? And is there a final step in your eyes that you see that needs to be taken for you guys to get there?
Yeah, I think we're extremely close. Was it 2 losses to top 10 teams by a total of 5 points? I think I'm saying that right. And we had plenty of opportunities in both those games to win it. The thing we've got to do a great job of is finishing. You know, there's a lot of things that are disappointing about those games, but probably the biggest thing for me is just that in both those games, we led going into the fourth quarter. Now, I know LSU scored on the very first play of the fourth quarter, and I think they were like on the 3-yard line, so maybe there's an asterisk next to that one. But if I'm not mistaken, Steve can tell you those are the first 2 times in my time as the head coach that we've ever lost a game that we led going into the fourth quarter, and it's happened twice now. So we've got to finish. How do we finish? We play cleaner football, and we can look back at Saturday in Tuscaloosa, and there's so many opportunities on all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, that we had opportunities to finish that game and not even let it get to a final drive. And a lot of those things are, you know, self-inflicted, whether it be penalties, turnovers, you name it. So we got to you guys know I'm a big fan of Mike Tomlin, and somebody sent me his clip at halftime of I think it was the Cowboys game a couple weeks ago in his post-game interview where they asked him what he got to do in the second half, and he said something along the lines of, we got to quit kicking our own butt before we worry about kicking somebody else's. And we've had a lot of that this year, and we've got to just continue to be better and grow and learn and get better each and every week. And I see a lot of signs of that. So to answer your question, I think we're extremely close, but we also know that the margin for error in this league especially is extremely small.
I know you've talked about it and said it's a business trip, and there's bigger fish to fry than going home to Norman, but what are the emotions like, if any, and would you be surprised if maybe you're riding in and you see like an old street sign or something that just reminds you used to live and work there?
No, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't going to be emotions. I mean, the hotel that we'll be staying in is the hotel that I lived in for like the first 3 weeks until I found a temporary place to live, or actually I probably lived in there for more than that. No, it got too expensive, so I had to find a cheaper hotel to live in. That's what it was. I stayed in there for a week, but the Embassy Suites, their rate was a little bit higher than I think the Courtyard Marriott is where I moved into after that for a month or so. But we're staying in that hotel. The first time my family and I ever went to Norman when I had taken the job is the hotel that we're staying in. So I'm so appreciative of my time there. I'm thankful to Lincoln Riley giving me an opportunity. Thankful for the great players that I was around. Made so many friends that we still, keep in touch with for sure. And then Joe Castiglione, the athletic director, was so good to me during my time there and really poured into me as an assistant coach that had goals of becoming a head coach. And I can't thank him enough for how he poured into me during my 3 years there. And Joe Harris, the president, is just awesome. I mean, I still get text messages from those guys and phone calls and whatnot. So just really, really good people, friends for life that we made out there. But yeah, there'll be a lot of memories. I mean, Norman's a small college town and it's flat. So pretty much every hotel room, I'll be able to look out the window and see things in Norman that bring back memories. But once the game starts, it's about that. But I think the biggest thing for me, Lulu, is just the appreciation and gratitude I have for my time out there and the people that I was around.
Hey, Coach, speaking of young quarterbacks, looking like Oklahoma's going to roll out Michael Hawkins, true freshman. What stands out about him when you're watching the film? And then dealing with an offense that has so many injuries, especially at receiver, how much more difficult does that make getting a game plan together when you don't know really who's going to be out there on Saturday?
Yeah, it can be a challenge. I mean, you look at it, Jackson Arnold, the previous quarterback, did a lot of really good things this year. You watch his tape, and he made some big-time throws, and is a good athlete. And then you watch with Michael, the new quarterback, he's able to make throws, and obviously he brings an athletic element to the position, being able to run as well. So it's a challenge when you face a running quarterback that can improvise and get out of the pocket and make plays. And they've lost some receivers, some of their bigger receivers size wise. This group they have, though, is still talented, though. They're twitchy, they're athletic, they can make people miss. They're really athletic at tight end and can run, and they rely on those two guys a lot as well. So they present a lot of problems, one, personnel-wise and the uncertainty of some things, but two, they've got, it's Oklahoma. They haven't lacked for really good recruiting classes, and I don't think anybody said that Oklahoma's ever not been talented. So yes, they've had some injuries, but they're an extremely talented and well-coached football team on all three phases.
Perhaps it's not even something that needs to be said to your team, but how do you strike the balance of telling them how great of a job they did of keeping it close against Alabama and also letting them know that losing a tight game is not to be celebrated?
Yeah, just that. I think whether it's you can learn from every loss and you can learn from every win. And I'm sure people get mad at me because we've had losses and I find the positives in them instead of going in there and just going scorched earth on people after losses. And there's a time and place for that, don't get me wrong. But you build up on a lot of the positives and the progress that you made. But this group, Jordan, is an older, mature group where I don't have to tell them that. They hurt, they're disappointed, they're not into moral victories. And, give LSU and Alabama, both credit, but a lot of our guys realize that we could easily be sitting here 5-1 right now if we just finish games better. And there's great hurt and disappointment that we haven't been able to do that, but no one's happy about being 3-3. And that's what I told our players. Last week, everybody thought we stunk. And this week, it's a bunch of pats on the back about how hard you played. And, man, you almost had them. And what a response and all that as well. And last week, we didn't listen to it. This week, we don't need to be listening to it. We need to do everything in our power to find a way to win a game this Saturday as well.
All right, Shane Beamer. Brent Venables said today he's not opposed to running a two-quarterback system. Michael Hawkins Jr. and Jackson Arnold not getting a great deal of production from any of those two quarterbacks thus far, but he's not opposed to running both of them in there and out of there as the case may be. All right, let's go to Dabo Swinney. No quarterback issues with the Tigers. No major issues at all as he looks ahead to Virginia.
Virginia's a good football team. I'm really impressed with the job that Tony has done and his staff because, obviously I've been trying to keep up with them since he got up there from where the program was when he got there to where it is now. I mean, it's really impressive what he's been able to instill. You see it, especially from a coach's eye watching it. I see, and you saw it last year. I mean, they had I think they had 4 games that came down to a play last year. And I just started to see what he's trying to instill in the team, show up. And I called and reached out to him several times last year, because it's frustrating when you don't get the results, but you could see it. And then this year, man, they've taken another step. I mean, it's a good football team, really good football, well coached. And, they've got really good schemes on both sides of the ball. But the biggest compliment that you can give any team and any coach is all 3 phases. They play very physical, they play hard, and they play fast in all 3 areas. So and it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter if it's the first play or the fourth quarter. You see that consistency in their effort. And so this is a really, really tough-minded group, and that comes from what Tony and his staff has been able to build and recruit and develop and nurture as they build their culture there. Offensively, everything starts with this quarterback. I mean, he's a good player. He's a problem. I mean, he really is a problem. He's a guy. He's kind of like the kid from Stanford that we saw. I mean, this guy can really, really create. Some of his best plays come off of busted plays or come off of scramble plays. He puts a lot of strain on you you have to really squeeze him because he even, they're a big zone read team and swap zone and counter team, but and they do a lot of, just quarterback run stuff where he's reading it. But sometimes there's plays where really the read is to give it, but he'll pull it anyway. And he's just better than the guy that's there on the chalkboard. It looks good. You're in a good you're in a good spot, but he's just better than that guy, and he runs around you. And then they get him on the edge some. Sometimes again, if you don't do a good job of squeezing him, he's around you and he's gone. I mean, and it's 20 yards. So he's just one of those guys that creates a lot of problems because he can throw the football. They got some good receivers. I think the tight end is a really, really good player. 18, number 8 is leading their team in receiving. He's big, probably one of the biggest kids we'll see all year. Big, confident player. Number 8, Fields, a very good player. Got 2 really good backs, and obviously we all know Kobe. And he's we loved him in recruiting, loved him while he was here. He is a really tough, physical, confident runner that runs behind his pads, so got a lot of respect for him and his game. And man, I'm proud of him. He's done an awesome job. And then that 0, the other kid that comes in, he's a very good player as well. So they got a complete group on that side of the ball. And then over on the defensive side, it's one of the best fronts we've seen. I mean, these guys are really good up front. 90 and 55 are big, heavy-handed, twitchy kids inside that play with a very, very high motor from first play to last play. And then 15 and 82 are 2 of the best edge guys we've seen. So very, very good group up front, good group of backers. Probably one of the best safeties that we'll see all year in that number 20. I mean, he's an eraser for them. He makes a lot of plays. Their scheme is a challenge. How they play their scheme. They're very well schooled on how to execute the scheme. And so, this is a team that you have to line up, and you got to, take care of the ball, and you got to execute at a high level. They're very, very, again, very, very well-coached team, and a team that plays really hard and really physical, and it'll be a tough match for us. So excited about the opportunity, excited about getting back in the Valley and seeing if we can keep building momentum within our season. This is a great opportunity for us. We put ourselves in a good spot, but you got to do it every week. I mean, right now at the end of the day, we're just 5-1. We got to keep going, and so it just takes consistency in our preparation, week in and week out, guys buying in to not just wanting to win, but being willing to do what it takes to win. And these guys have really done that. I'm proud of them. So we just got to keep building on that.
Update from Virginia on their injuries. Their left tackle, Mikael Boley, practiced today. He should be good to go. Their slot, Chris Tyree, practiced today, should be good to go. Their receiver, Trell Harris, underwent surgery on his knee. He's out a little longer. Their safety, Antonio Clary, has a knee, trying to get back, but they don't know if he'll return in time for this week's game. And we will return after this break.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 Main.
Here's tonight's forecast. We are clear and chilly overnight with a low dipping down to 45. Tomorrow, a bit cooler than today and gorgeous. Sunshine-filled skies, a high temp topping out at 64. We have a cold night in store with a low of 40. Every day the rest of the week with high temps in the 70s from Thursday and into the weekend. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
The fall in Casey, West Columbia is so wonderful, and now it's time for Rhythm on the River, proudly presented by the Greater Casey, West Columbia Chamber. This week, one party's not enough at Riverwalk Amphitheater, so this Thursday, it is time to jam. With Cash Money Experience, what a party! Then on Friday, check out Curve, formerly known as Nahi Groove. There'll be great food trucks, great music, and the best sphere. It's Rhythm on the River. For more information on this and all events, check out www.visitcwcsc.com.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting Walgreens is planning to close around 1,200 locations as the drugstore chain and its rivals struggle to define their role for U.S. shoppers who no longer look to them first for convenience. Drugstores that once snapped up prime retail spots around the country are in retreat. They've been battered by shrinking prescription reimbursement, persistent theft, rising costs, and consumers who have strayed to online retailers or competitors with better prices. Boeing is moving towards raising up to $25 billion to shore up its troubled financial position. The company signaled Tuesday that it could raise that much money by issuing new stock or debt over the next 3 years. Boeing is also entering into a new $10 billion credit agreement with leading U.S. banks. Boeing's lost more than $25 billion since 2019. This is SRN News.
If you are 65 or older, I get frustrated when I see people getting scammed or misled. Some of these national TV spots pushing these scare tactics for Medicare coverage, they can be very misleading. You get bombarded every fall. You don't need to let this stress you out. See, I've worked with the folks at Hickory Hill Insurance. Tim Hanbury and his dynamic and growing team has helped my family on more than one occasion. Here's the thing. The world of Medicare is changing. The laws and the technology. Hickory Hill Insurance has it covered. They have the knowledge, leadership, the latest tech, and very caring agents. Their response time to your calls, questions, and concerns is incredible. Remember, I know this. They've helped me. It's as simple as visiting their website, partdandme.com. And I bet you think it's going to cost a mountain of money. Nope, not a penny. Let the Hickory Hill team go to work for you. Visit partdandme.com. If they can help you find a better plan, they will. If they can't, they'll be honest. They'll tell you, stick with what you have, because that's who they are. Online, it's partdandme.com, or just call Hickory Hill Insurance 708-7398. That's 708-7398.
If you step onto H&J Cattle Company's farm, you'll find third-generation farmers upholding the legacy. They embrace sustainability and take immense pride in their craft, raising cattle purely on nature's offerings without hormones, antibiotics, or animal byproducts. The result? Unmatched quality beef that's not just good, it's the best in South Carolina. Experience the distinct flavor of our finest registered Hereford and Wagyu beef. Visit us online at hdjcattle.co or on Instagram and Facebook at hdjcattleco.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Hey y'all, my name's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. It is football at Flight Deck. We're thrilled about football season. Of course, when you're watching football, there's nothing better than wings and ice-cold adult beverages. We here at Flight Deck are offering some of the most delicious meaty wings that you'll ever wrap your lips around. Flight Deck Restaurant's got hot flamethrower wings, barbecue wings, teriyaki wings, honey mustard wings. Flight Deck will be featuring Carolina and Clemson football on all the TVs all the time. So come see some great football, enjoy great wings, and sip some ice-cold adult beverages. Flight Deck Restaurant in Lexington. Thanks y'all and God bless.
The hunting season is here. Whether you hunt in the woods or near the water, Palmetto State Armory has you covered with everything you need for the season. PSA has a complete inventory of AR-style rifles, bolt-action rifles, shotguns, ammunition, outdoor apparel, decoys, and more from all of your favorite brands. Visit PalmettoStateArmory.com to find the store nearest you. Palmetto State Armory, American-made for life.
All right, time to catch up on the ever fascinating world of NASCAR. Coming off the race of the Roval at Charlotte, we're down to 8 drivers in the playoffs, heading to the championship 4 in a few weeks. Right now, that would be Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron, but we got more racing to go before we get to the 4. Welcome in President of Darlington, Josh Harris. Of course, everything that happened at the race was, what happened after the race with the disqualification and the ultimate penalty and everything else that kind of overshadowed the race itself, Josh. That was I know that's something NASCAR does not like to do, but I guess they had no other choice but to impose that penalty.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for the 48 team, and really, when you think about Alex Bowman, it's not something he did. It's what makes part of this, a team sport, and I think the storyline coming out of it initially was Hendrick having all four of their cars locked into the playoffs, locked into this round of 8, and I think NASCAR does, a thorough job, and I think this is probably good from a competition standpoint. Is they put all the playoff cars through post-race tech inspection just to make sure as they advance that everything is compliant. And unfortunately, they found that violation of the weight being a little too light for the 48 team. And I would just say, given the fact that they decided not to appeal, maybe says a little bit about what they knew in terms, or they just felt like the rule was pretty black and white from NASCAR side. They give them a tolerance, just like they give them a tolerance speeding on pit road, and if you're over that, you're over that, regardless of what the reason may be.
Any idea from what you've been hearing about how they got the car under the minimum weight, a particular piece they left off, or how would you do that?
These are some of the most creative minds in motorsports, and a lot of engineers. I'm not saying that they did anything necessarily wrong. However, it's just like speeding on pit road. If the pit road speed is 50, NASCAR gives you a 5 mile per hour allowance. They're all pushing to right up to that limit. And I think this is probably a similar situation where you weigh the car, the mechanics of how they may be able to lose some weight during a race. I have no idea. That's way above my head from a car setup standpoint. But I think it's probably something that teams play in the gray area, so to speak, around this. And unfortunately, they were too light after the race. It could have been that they lost some sort of part during that race. There's several clips of Alex taking some pretty hard hits over those bumps, and maybe it didn't necessarily cause all of it, but it may have caused them to lose something from the car that ultimately put them below that 17-pound threshold.
Yeah. Air conditioning compressor or something fell out of there. It's a hot day. So a lot of drama, though, as the race was winding down, as you tried to get to the number 8 guy getting in. It looked like Joey Logano was going to get in. Then Tyler Reddick got in, and it bumped Logano out. And then, of course, you had the post-race stuff, and Logano got back in. So how do you think that team feels? I mean, I know they're happy to be in the 8 and have a chance, but, I mean, you talk about the ultimate backdoor move here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if they go on to win a championship, they aren't going to care how it happens,
Yeah.
But certainly a range of emotions, I would imagine, for that team. And there were a number of times throughout the season that Joey could look back and find 5 points. But what I thought was interesting throughout the course of that race is you have to really pay attention to what different cars are on different strategy, because of the final. It all kind of comes down to when they're going to make that final pit stop. And once all of that cycles out, that's when you really know where cars stand against the cut line. So you had a guy like Tyler Reddick who had that incident, got spun around, and the way they rallied back, but there was a time where he was below the cut line and Joey was ahead, and had it not been for that last caution in stage 3, it really would have been interesting to see if Reddick may have been the one on the outside looking in, and then ultimately would have made it with the disqualification of the 48. So I don't think the 22 team's gonna feel bad for anybody. They've worked hard, they've made it, and he's going to a track this weekend out in Las Vegas where he's proven he can win in the past, and I would look for them to be a strong contender out there in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Harris with us here tonight from Darlington Raceway. And Josh, dovetailing off of that, is there a hard and fast rule that NASCAR has to have 8 teams in this round of the playoffs? I mean, why not just go with 7 and tell Logano, I'm sorry, you didn't qualify. You're not getting in because somebody else screwed up.
Well, I think, yes, they're going to have 8 in this round. And it's not so much that he didn't make it or not. It essentially the result, once the race results were official, which was after post-race inspection, the 48 team, their finishing position ended up being 38. So that's when they look at, all right, this is the point standings now, and these are our top 8. So they're moving on. So I know in the heat of as it's happening right in front of us and it's unfolding, everything it does feel like, oh, well, now they've put Joey in and they've taken Alex out, but really that's kind of all unofficial until they do those post-race inspections.
All right, so now that we go into this final leg before the Championship 4, with Hendrick not having the opportunity to have all 4 of its drivers get to the Championship 4, I mean, they're still the team to beat, right? I mean, Kyle Larson, especially the way he looked at the Roval, looks still to be the most dominant driver on the circuit right now.
Yeah, I mean, 6 wins already, and he's proven he can win on a number of different style tracks. He's going to some tracks where he's obviously won in the past, and I think Las Vegas he's done really well. I know he likes Homestead, Miami, because he can run right up against the wall. And this round really is kind of getting back to some of the core tracks that we run on, 2.5 miles and then a short track at Martinsville. I think you've got to put Hendrick kind of as the front runners, Kyle specifically. However, we've also seen Kyle over the course of the year. He probably doesn't have the highest average finish because he does push it so close to the limit. Sometimes he pushes it over, and they will end up with a DNF or crash or other reasons. So I think he's probably got the best chance and best odds of winning, but also needs to make sure he's protecting that lead. I think another one to really look out for is Christopher Bell, kind of quiet under the radar again. And I'm curious to see if now that we've gotten to this stage of the playoffs, if the 11 team and Denny Hamlin's kind of been holding something back and you see them kind of put it all together. They got off to a really hot start at the beginning of the year with 3 wins, probably in the first, 10 or 12 weeks of the season. And then it's kind of cooled off for them since then.
Before we let you go, fill us in on how it's going with taking in folks from the upstate of South Carolina or the mountains of North Carolina. You guys opened up areas of the track to take in folks who needed a place to go. How is that going? Have people come and gone? What's the update?
Yeah, people have come and gone, and we've at this point, no one else has showed up, so we've shut it down, but we are really thrilled to be able to open up that opportunity. And then our track laps for charity last Thursday night, we were able to raise just over $2,500 for relief that'll be going to the American Red Cross. And then we also had a pickup truck load of non-perishable supplies that folks had dropped off at the track that we were able to take and send up there this past weekend. So all in all, we're really pleased with the response we got in a short amount of time from the community and those that turned out to support in any of those ways, and certainly those that showed up to take a little refuge at the track. And we're continuing to, keep an eye on all the recovery efforts. I saw Greg Biffle was at the Roval this weekend, and they recognized him in the drivers' meeting, and he served as an honorary official for the race, which I thought was really cool. The NASCAR community to show their appreciation for all that he's been doing in those relief efforts as well.
Awesome. Well, we thank you for being with us. Have yourself a great week. Look forward to Las Vegas this weekend, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thanks, Josh.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Josh Harris from Darlington. Great job by Darlington helping people out.
Yeah, that was cool.
Wanted to be helped and making a contribution as well. Super job by those folks. Okay, we were in Birmingham today, SEC Basketball Media Day. Here is Lamont Paris as he spoke with the 3 South Carolina media members who were there after he spoke in the big room and made the rounds of the other stops. Here's a couple of minutes with the Gamecock basketball coach as we talked to him after he finished up everything else before heading back to Columbia.
How do you assess where you are as you look ahead to the start of the season?
Yeah, I like where we are. We've made good progress. I think we had a really productive summer, and our fall has been really good. We've stayed fairly healthy overall, and the guys are learning one another and how to coexist and play, and who likes to do what and who's capable of doing what. And so I think along those lines, which is the most important stuff, we're making really good progress.
Lost a lot of firepower from last year, offensively, a lot of points. So where are they going to come from? Where are you going to make that up?
Yeah, lost a lot of points, but I think just as importantly, we brought a lot of other pieces back. So when you're talking about terminology and just a general understanding of what we would like to try to do, you have more guys that understand that, which is probably the most important thing for us. But we brought in some new guys that'll have to score for us. That'll have great opportunities. You got a guy like Jamari Thomas was Player of the Year while he was at Norfolk State in the conference, and you got guys that have scored for us like Colin Murray-Boyles, who probably is going to have to score more or at least do more. He may not score more because he may have his hands full trying to do the same thing he did last year, just because he'll be keyed in on by every team. And so we need him to generate offense for us. We got guys like Nick Pringle, who will be asked to do more offensively probably than he's been asked to do in his whole career in terms of as a offensive producer. A lot of different guys. Bigger role for Jacoby. Miles has been a consistent 10-point-ish guy his whole career, and so can he bump that up a little bit? A lot of different, Cam Scott's coming in. I think ultimately one day it would be awesome if he could be a double figures type guy for us because of what he can do as a player overall. There's just a lot of guys. Zach Davis, what does shooting look like for him this year? He's worked as hard on a shot as anybody I've seen in an off season, and consistently. And so can he provide more punch that way? So the biggest thing for me will be someone will score. It's the easiest thing to do in the game of basketball is to put the ball in the basket, right? Nobody ever, people have had 40 points all the time, 40 rebounds, 40 assists. Who does that? Scoring is the easiest thing on that side of the ball to do. So we'll find somebody that will do that. We just got to get things sewed up on defense to where we feel comfortable with what we're doing defensively.
Is there one thing or maybe a couple of things you feel like you need to see between now and November 4th to feel like this team's ready to go for the season?
Aside from we're a growth-oriented program, we have been. Last year we were. Even the year before that, in my first year, I talked about, amazingly enough, how much growth we had made and how teams felt about playing us in February versus how they felt about playing us in December was drastically different in year one. So we're a growth-oriented group. So aside from the natural, normal growth, just a couple things defensively right now that I think it's time for us to show that we can do. Defensive discipline. That's one thing that we really. Our defensive ability is high. We're long. We're athletic. But the discipline that allows you to those factors to be unlocked is where we still have some room to grow.
You talked about providing an opportunity for transfers. With Nick, how did you get a sense of what he was looking for in on the offensive side, or is that something that came about because it was a need for you guys, more of what he was seeking?
Yeah, I think ultimately it was a little bit of both. I think that's part of the reason why it worked out so well was because it is something that he was looking for. We had a sense of that was something that he was looking for. It's also something that we need, and it's also, most importantly, I think this is really, really important, is that it's something that I believe that he can do and he can grow to. He's not going to do it just because I say here's an opportunity to do it. You have to believe that he can do it. You have to put him in positions to where he's going to fail sometimes. But I just don't know how many times in his life someone ever gave him the ball in a scenario and said, "Hey, go to work and go try to make something happen." And we're going to definitely do that with him some. And so I think that excited him. It still continues to excite him. And because I think at the end of the day, he'll have some successes with that, it excites me as well.
What do you recall?
There you go. Some comments from Lamont Paris. Both versions of his meeting with the media, the big room and that scrum there. It's on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, as is everything we do, as in podcast form, SoundCloud, and other podcast outlets. So no excuse for not finding it, downloading it, listening to it, commenting on it, etc., etc. Okay. After the break, give you a little recruiting. Be right back. Don't go away. Sports Talk Media Network.
In Columbia, South Carolina, game days are our specialty. Whether you're watching the game from inside the stadium, from the big at your favorite local spot, the energy remains the same. Craft the perfect fall Saturday in a city where there is plenty of action on and off the field. From tubing and kayaking to Soda City to rooftop restaurants and plenty barbecue. We're ready when you are. Plan your weekend at ExperienceColumbiaSC.com.
Farm Bureau insurance agents live and work right in our community. They're not at the end of some 1-800 number thousands of miles away. The personalized attention, competitive rates, and a reputation for fast, fair claim service sets Farm Bureau insurance apart from the competition. For your auto, home, and life insurance needs, trust Farm Bureau Insurance. In Clinton and Lawrence, give Buddy Bridge a call at 864-984-0413 or stop by the office at 726 East Main Street in Lawrence to see how local makes a difference.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hostetler-Brown. Helping an aging loved one arrange for their care can be one of the most difficult things you will ever do. Fortunately, you don't have to navigate this maze alone. Lawyer Lisa's knowledgeable life care team can lead you down the right path. Visit LawyerLisa.com to see how we can help.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
George Bryant here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and wow, Tsunami Robbie, there is now an amazing technology that you can use when you train receiving large game without having to endure pain. Please explain.
George, that is the magic combination. 3 simple words to define that entire concept. Stimulation, not annihilation. Regardless of your training goals, there is a level of stimulation that is optimal for your desired gains. Tsunami Bar's flexible bar technology meets these demands because the user determines the level of stimulation with the amount of speed and force they impart into the bar or training device.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
All right, time to give you a quick recruiting update in our final minutes tonight, brought to you by Seawell's Catering at 803-771-7385, online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. The daily luncheon buffet tomorrow from 11 till 2. And if you need parking for the State Fair, Seawells can handle that for you also. Just pull up and park and walk across the street to the State Fair. All right, recruiting-wise, just an update on receiver Jordan Gidron of Ridgeview, 6'2", 175. You know, he's a Gamecock commitment, and he reclassified for 2025. And just checked in on him because he's been dealing with a knee injury that he suffered back on September 7th, had surgery 3 days later, and he's been working to get back into shape ever since then. He told us it's doing well. He got cleared to practice, so he's doing that. And he's hoping to be back in time for the playoffs at the latest. In the meantime, about South Carolina, he just said he really likes Mike Furry, and he likes that the opportunity for early playing time. Even though he'll be a young kid, the opportunity for playing time for him, he sees it there at South Carolina. Chose them over the likes of Clemson, Tennessee, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn, Miami, Duke, North Carolina, Florida State, NC State, and LSU. I did ask him, I said, did the opportunity to go ahead and get started early in the NIL world and start making some money have anything to do with your decision? He said it did not. He said he and his family talked about it and just decided that, you know, he wasn't going to get any better in high school. He was being double-teamed everywhere that he went on the field. He just feels like he's done everything he can in high school, and he's ready to move up to that next level. He is going to play in the Under Armour All-American game January 3rd in Orlando. Was not selected for the Shrine Bowl. He said he would consider playing in the Touchstone Energy Bowl on December 21st in Myrtle Beach if he is selected. And those rosters will be announced on Monday. And 2026 linebacker Storm Miller, 6'3", 220 of Strongsville, Ohio. What a great name of the town. He's the brother of Clemson lineman Blake Miller. He was at Clemson for the Stanford game. Of course, he's been to Clemson before to see his brother. He knows the coaching staff well because they know him well. So Clemson obviously in the mix strongly with him at this point. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas A&M, Michigan, and Kentucky are among his other offers at this point. He plans to visit Ohio State October 26th, and he also plans to make game visits to Stanford and Wisconsin. Really likes Coach Goodwin as well and the recruiting staff, so he feels good about Clemson at this point, but there's more work to be done there. And that's recruiting. Josh, going to be off for a couple of nights. You take care of yourself. Chris, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow night from Rivals in Florence.
Yes, sir.